Hi guys, how you doing? My name is Mike Wagon. I'm 61 years old and I live out in a place called Temecula, California. Um, I was encouraged to get on video and just tell you a little bit about myself, my story, so to speak. And so that's what I'm going to do here today. Hopefully, I won't have too many mess ups. I've never done this before, so just bear with me. Um, I guess I'll start where I was born in 1958 in a little town called La Mirada, California, which is on the very far east side of Los Angeles County. You could actually walk down the street about 100 yards, you'd be in Orange County. But for all practical purposes, as I got older and people asked me where I was born, I'd tell them East Los Angeles, and that way they think you're some type of guy who's a hard butt who can take care of yourself, and you rarely had any problems with anybody. But anyways, La Mirada was a great little town to grow up in, probably 25,000 people that lived in La Mirada at that time, and to say they were a sports town is kind of an understatement. We really had some great athletes that came out of La Mirada, and I was no different. I wanted to play sports when I was younger. 8 years old, I started playing baseball. That was actually, probably my sport. I played football as well, and I remember as starting out playing baseball. Just to give you a little bit of story, a background story, I was pretty good. Um, how good I didn't even know. I remember my older brother Lee, who had taught me, helped teach me how to play baseball, along with my older brother Jim, who's since passed. Um, he stated one time, I think I was about 11, and he said, "Mike, you don't realize you just have a gift for this game." He said, "Do you realize last year you played third base and went the entire season without an error?" I didn't know that. You don't think about things like that as a young boy. And also remember my first year of football. We had a pretty tough coach. It was an expansion team that they were bringing into La Mirada. And again, I was probably about 11 when I first started playing football. And I remember going out for the team, and in the first practice, I strained a quad muscle and was unable to practice for about a week. And later on, it came about that they were at a banquet. I was out about a week, and I was able to come back and start running again. But later on, at a banquet they held for the start of the season, the coaches were mentioning my name. Parents were there, the players were not. And they held up a jersey number 13. That was not something that I would have chose, but I didn't get my pick. Playing football for the first year, you're not going to get a pick at what number you get. You haven't established yourself. So he said, we almost cut this kid the first week because he strained a quad muscle and he couldn't participate for the first week. But he said after he healed and got back in and we saw him, we decided as coaches we were going to give him the number 13 because we think he's going to be bad news for the other teams. And that was kind of my dad had a smile from ear to ear, and that was the beginning of my football career. But anyways, getting back to the town of La Mirada and some of the great athletes that came out of there. Just unbelievable. We got into high school, baseball and football, and I even in junior high did track. For a long time, I held the district record for shot put and long jump. So, I just like to play sports. And in high school, as a freshman, I played freshman football and was the MVP of that team. I also played freshman baseball, also the MVP of that team. Next year, sophomore, played football again as the MVP of that team. Then when it came to baseball, they had a big rally at the high school before the start of the season, and my coach got up there and announced that I, as a sophomore, would be playing varsity baseball. Now you think, no big deal these days, in the present time, but back in those days, didn't happen too often. In the history of our high school, he stated, there was only one other player that played varsity baseball as a sophomore. His name was Jerry Maddox. Now, it's not the Jerry Maddox you're thinking of with the Philadelphia Phillies, not that one. Jerry Maddox he was the quarterback for our football team, a little older than I am. He lived around the corner from me, so I knew exactly who he was. He went on to play for Arizona State. But to tell you how good he was is, at the time, he was the Collegiate Player of the Year, which was now be known as the Golden Spikes Award winner. But he beat all of Reggie Jackson's home run and RBI records at Arizona State. That'll tell you how good that guy was. And he stated that, myself, Mike Wagon, along with Jerry Maddox, were the only two baseball players in the history of Neff High School to play varsity baseball as a sophomore. So that was kind of a nice little feather in my cap at the time, and it never dawned on me that that had happened, because there were some fantastic, like I said, athletes that came out of Neff High School and La Mirada in general, at the other high school as well, La Mirada High School. But anyways, to get on to that, my goal when I was younger is, I wanted to play professional baseball. 2, if I couldn't play professional baseball, I wanted to be a police officer. So let's get to my junior year in high school. This is where some of the things started to turn wrong for me. We were in a championship football game, and we blew those guys out 59-21, and I injured my right knee. It was the first time I had knee surgery, was as a junior in high school. As a senior, I recovered. Remember my mom crying when I told her I was going to go play football again, that my knee felt good enough to do so. And we got pretty far in the playoffs, but no championship that year. I then went on, to play summer leagues and stuff like that in and around town. Played college baseball, did pretty well. Really thought I was going to have a shot at maybe getting drafted senior year, as a sophomore at the time, but in college. And what happened was I wound up playing in a summer league, Connie Mack. I don't even know if they still have that league or not, probably do, but it was just the guys from La Mirada who got together during the summer and played Connie Mack League. And I think it was 17 to 20-year-old young men who played together. And the sad thing is during the season, I think we were like 13-11. We were a great team. We had great players, but we had people that were going to Disneyland, to work. They had other jobs, and not everybody was there during the season. But we somehow made it into the playoffs with being 2 games over 500. And some of us sat down and we said, hey, look, guys, if we're going to get serious about these playoffs, everybody has to be there, all right? Get the time off, do whatever you have to do, tell your boss how important it is, and let's do this. From there, we won 17 straight games, including the Connie Mack World Series. Great experience for all of us, great experience for this small town of La Mirada. And kind of funny, one of the guys that was one of our coaches is a guy named Tony Careni. Now you may say, who's Tony Careni? Well, if you've seen him many, many times on Sunday football. He's an NFL referee, has been for many years, good friend of mine, and we enjoy watching Tony and talking about the old times. Now let's progress a little bit further into my life. Get in, again, going to the Summer League hardball in La Mirada. I remember one time I was having a really good summer, and these guys were telling me there's an Angel Scout in the stands. And he said, look, they're going to be timing you to first base. So if you hit the ball, you need to run hard. I hit the ball, ran hard, beat it out, And next thing you know, I'm talking to this Angel Scout, and he says, I want you to come down to Sawtell Field this Sunday, and I want you to meet this guy who's running this Angels camp workout. And I said, okay. So I do, drive all the way out there. It's about 2 hours. And I get there, and I walk on the field. And this Angel coach is just reaming the scout, going, hey, I've never seen the guy, never heard of him. What are you doing bringing this guy here unannounced? He goes, no, please, you got to see him, just give him a chance. And so what happens is, I've been 2 hours in a car, and this Angel coach goes, pick up a bat, and he goes, get in the batter's box. He goes, if you can hit this guy, you can hit anybody. And I go, okay. I get out there and I look, and it's a guy I know. And he's one of the best pitchers I've ever seen. And he's from La Mirada. And I get up there. I've got no practice swings. I take maybe 3 practice swings. I'm not loose at all. And this guy had a devastating breaking ball. So I get up there, and the first thing that comes at me, guess what, is the breaking ball. Whoosh, I swing through it. He throws me another one. Whoosh, I swing through it. So now I'm 0-2. For whatever reason, I don't know, he decides to throw me a fastball in the outside corner. And luckily, my timing was just perfect because I wasn't loose. I'm kind of a pole hitter, but I wasn't all that loose after spending 2 hours in the car. He throws that outside corner fastball, and I was just slow enough to meet it perfectly. I hit this ball about 440 feet into dead center over the center field wall at Sawtell Field. And I was supposed to run down to first base if I made contact so he could time me. Anyways, as I hit it, I'm kind of jogging down to first base. I mean, I know it's gone. In a game, I'm just doing my home run trot. And he come running after me going, where'd you say you played, kid? And he goes, I can't believe we missed you and didn't hear about you. And he goes, wow. He goes, maybe it's because maybe it's your speed. You didn't have a very good time down to first base. And in my head, I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I just hit the ball 440 feet. And you want me to run down to first base for time? That's not what you're thinking as a baseball player when you hit a ball that far. So anyways, that was kind of the beginning of the upper level baseball experience. I did play a couple of years, and then I had a very devastating left knee surgery. I had a total rebuild of my left knee. Tore 2 sets of ligaments, all my cartilage, and even tore a tendon off. Off the knee that had to be reset. And it took me about a year to get back, and just had some problems. I was taking cortisone at night sometimes, and then icing it at night, and that would wear off, and the pain, and going back and forth. And finally I got together with my orthopedic surgeon, and he said, do you think you're going to ever make it? And I said, not with who they got up in front of me. I'd have to get traded. And it was at that time he had concern how well my knees would be functioning if I kept playing. So we decided to call it quits, and that was the end of that. And so anyways, that was the end of the baseball dream. I went to work in construction, had a girlfriend whose dad had a construction firm. I worked about 9.5 years in construction, but I kept having to jump down off of scaffolds and things like that. And then what really became the kicker for me is that I needed to get out is I was up on a 12-foot ladder one day, and the ladder just collapsed. No warning, just gave out from underneath me. I just slammed down. I'm pinning my left foot underneath my rear end, full force of 185 pounds coming down. I just snapped all the bones in there, and so I was off for quite a while. My oldest brother had just passed at that time, so all us kids had taken turns living with my mother. At that time, I thought it was a good time for me to move in with her and spend some time there while I recuperated and decided what I was going to do. Now, the stupidest thing I did was I quit at 9.5 years into the construction business, and it was a union. If I had stayed another 6 months, I would have gotten some type of small pension, but you don't think about those things when you're younger. You do stupid stuff. But anyways, as time wore on, I continued to play high level baseball and get injuries, whether it would be when people find out in your hometown that you're done, The biggest thing for them is they want to get you on their team, you know. And of course, I just kept playing high level, slow pitch fastball or slow pitch softball, even fast pitch softball. And I'm talking about high level where guys are dead serious. I remember playing for OC Swats for a couple of games. And back then, a lot of people didn't even know it. The guys who play this game, these guys could hit a softball 450 feet. I remember the guy on deck, he was 6'4", about 245 pounds of chiseled muscle. You would think he was playing middle linebacker for the Los Angeles Rams. And I mean, this guy could crush a ball. And after a while, I just realized, not only was I not going to be able to travel all the time like they did, I was not a guy who could crush a ball, a softball. Hardball, yeah. Softball, no. Just didn't have the size. So, but I continued playing, had another knee surgery, just all kinds of little things happening. I got married. It was probably in my early 30s. I was working for a roofing company when I met this gal and got married. She had 4 children, wasn't getting any help from her ex-husband. And, we started off on a journey. At that time, we were living in Fullerton, which is close to my hometown in La Mirada. And we decided to move out to Temecula. It was a small town, just like La Mirada was. About 25,000 people, and hardly had any signals. Most of it was stop signs, and we thought it was a great place to live. And I decided one time to, I could figure something to do other than construction. So I decided to apply to be a car salesman. So I went in and talked to a guy, and they decided to hire me. And this was a tough place. These guys, you got to wear a suit and tie every day, even in the heat. And I learned the ropes. And within 1 year, I was a closer running a sales team. It was quite an accomplishment for me. I felt real good about it. And I was looking forward to the next step, which would be being a desk manager. The unfortunate thing is one of the older daughters, one of my older stepdaughters had married and moved to Utah. My wife wanted to be with her, and all I heard about moving to Utah, and I just said, I can't. I just got promoted, and she decided that she was going with me or without me. That's what she said. So I gave her some money to move. She moved. We were separated. We figured if we got back together, then, so be it. Turned out that after about 6 months, I decided to join her up there, and I had to start all over again, and the kids had, the oldest daughter who was in Utah had a crane business and did a little work for them. And this is where it really started having problems is, they asked me to take I can't even recall what they call it. Is just the hydraulic part that pushed up the crane boom because it needed to be refinished, and it was going to go out to Texas. And they asked if I could take it out for them. I said, sure, I'll do that. But anyways, while I was strapping down this part that needed to go out to Texas, I had strained a shoulder, kind of kinked my lower back, and I hurt my hip a little bit. And all the way down to Texas, I just felt this pressure in these 3 areas, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I figured, I've been working out my whole life. So I said, probably just some kinks. I'll get back home, start hitting the gym. It'll go away. No big deal. When I got back home, I was pretty tired. Fell asleep on the couch watching TV. My wife just left me there. And about 3 a.m, I get woken up out of a dead sleep, and I'm in excruciating pain. It took everything I had to get up off the couch. I was hunched over, could barely move. went into the master bedroom, woke my wife up and said, I don't know what's happened to me, but I'm just in immense pain. And that was the start of a journey for 3 months of visiting doctors, and they were trying to figure out what the heck was going on with me. Orthopedists, you name it, infectious disease doctors. 3 months of this, and I remember looking at my wife after being in bed for 3 months and barely able to move around the house, and I told her, I said, 2 weeks. That's all I'm giving this. 2 more weeks. They need to find something. I can't live like this. She knew what I meant. And I think at the time I might have been serious, who knows. But anyways, about 3 days later, they sent me to a rheumatologist in Murray, Utah. Guy listens to my story. He looks at my hands. He goes, do your hands hurt? And I go, they feel like they've been smashed by hammers. I said, everything hurts. He did an ultrasound. He goes, that's weird. He goes, I don't see any inflammation there or anything. And they took tests to see if I had rheumatoid arthritis. I didn't. But he goes, I think it's your immune system. And he said, that's how we're going to treat it. And he put me on an old-time medication, methotrexate, Plaquenil, which is a pill to treat malaria, and folic acid. And within about 2 to 3 weeks, I started seeing some relief. And I thought, holy cow, But he just said, I've never seen anything like this. I just never. But he was right. It was my immune system, and I was starting to get better. It took me about a year to get back to normal. I remember starting out in the garage where I had my weight machines and stuff, and just using a rubber band just to kind of stretch out, about a 20-pound rubber band, because I had no strength. The damage it did to all my joints was immense. And anyways, I got back to normal after about a year, and it did hurt our financial situation quite a bit. And shortly thereafter, the wife wanted a divorce. So I said, okay, I wasn't going to hassle about things. I'm not that way. Didn't want to get super mad or I was heartbroken, but I packed what I could in my truck and I left. And I came back to California. Moved back in with my mom for a while. She hadn't seen me in a year or so. And then I got a call from a very good friend of mine who found out that I had left Utah and was out with my mom. Good friend of mine, Rick, I've known him since I was about 8 years old. Known the whole family. His dad coached me in baseball. Mom, the whole family, great people. His sister, I even call her Sis. And he said, Mike, he says, why don't you come back out to Temecula? He goes, you can live with me for a while till you get on your feet. Go back into the car business. You're always good at that. And so that's what I did. I came back out here at his generous offer. And that's what I did. Went back into the car business. And this is where things start to turn again a little bit for me. I was probably 3 years into working for this company. Loved this car dealership, selling Subarus again, and just a great company to work for. They really cared about their salespeople. They asked us not to pressure people, which was something that was right up my alley. I really didn't like it, but high pressure was the name of the game back when I first started. But they would not allow us to do it. People want to walk off the lot, let them walk off the lot. And people loved us for that. A lot of people came back because we didn't pressure them. It was just a great place to work. Had a lot of friends there, great atmosphere. But anyways, 3 years into this, new venture, back in the car business, back in Temecula, I started getting lower back pain. And at the time, I was working out all the time. It's just something I've never stopped doing. Gotten all my strength back. Just to give you an idea, I'm 58 years old at the time, and 57, somewhere around there, and I'm pushing 240 pounds on a bench, 4 sets, 12 reps. Well, that's pretty good for a guy that's only 5'9", 185 pounds, and is 57, 58 years old. But anyways, I thought, lower back problem, I probably kinked it at the gym. It'll be okay. And after about 6 weeks, it never went away. And so I went to my rheumatologist out here, and he said, he goes, I think what's happening is you think the disease is kind of fusing your back together. He goes, we're going to need to get an MRI. Okay, so, I kind of, it hurt pretty good, but not super bad. I had a lot of sciatica going down there. And then probably because of this, it triggered my autoimmune disease to come out of remission. And things started getting really bad. About 6 months in, I'm in excruciating pain. I'm still coming to work, though. I could barely move. I'd have to get there to work. I could barely stand up, and I'd just start walking around the lot trying to get loose. And I did this for months. And I remember my boss coming up to me and go, Mike, you're really a good employee. You don't miss work, no matter what. And he says, but we're not going to fire you. He goes, you're going to have to tell us when you're done. And I was in so much pain and having so many problems that finally, about 11 months after it first started, right around my birthday, I walked up and I said, Carlos, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And anyways, that was the end of my working career right then and there. Sad day. Scary day too, because I still hadn't had the MRI, and I was getting really bad. And I had a wonderful girlfriend by the name of Patty. Still have her today. We've been together 5 years. She's been my rock, my strength, and just what a wonderful woman. Stuck by me, does everything she can for me, and is just an extremely hard worker. And but anyways, she saw me, every day, getting out of bed, barely able to move, being in a lot of pain. She's crying all the time. She thinks I'm dying. And she tells me, go over to Loma Linda University in Marietta. She goes, maybe they can do something. They have to treat you there. So I went there. I run into a doctor by the name of Gary Baldwin. And he goes, so what's going on? And I'm 10 seconds into this, and he starts going, let me guess. He goes, you feel like King Kong got a hold of you, dislocated every joint in your body. He goes, you're in extreme pain. Everything's stiff as a board. And I said, yeah, how'd you know? And he goes, because you're the first guy I've ever ran into who has the same disease I do. And he says, look, he goes, I can get you out of pain. He goes, but let's hit you with some Solumedrol injection and a Toradol injection. And now I'm going to tell you something that's kind of unbelievable, because I've had certain parts of my body injected with cortisone, shoulder or whatever, and it's just great stuff. But I'd never been injected to help my entire body, and this pain was excruciating. And the old medication wasn't working. So he gives me the shot of Solumedrol and Toradol. The next day, I go to the gym. And this is how I lived for about a year and a half, because Solumedrol and Toradol, they don't work forever. They're good for like a week, 10 days tops, and then you're back to square one. And so just to give you an idea of how much pain I was in, you should probably have Solumedrol injections about once a quarter. I was getting them about every 2 weeks, 60 some odd trips into the ER. I was very fortunate that I didn't wind up on dialysis, because this stuff will shut down your kidneys. Now, from there, I kept coming back. They knew me at Loma Linda quite a bit, frequent flyer there. And Dr. Gary Baldwin finds out that I need an MRI, and he says, okay, well, you got it? You got the order with you? I'll get it right now. And I go, yeah, it's out in my car. So I went and get it, give it to him. 10 minutes later, I'm in the MRI room and getting everything done. And he comes back out and he goes, dude, your back is a mess. It was not the disease. It was just accumulation of things I had done over the years. And he said, you need to see a back surgeon. So I did, and at that time, he said, hey, look, we could build a scaffold over that whole thing. I didn't want that. I had already been laying in bed for a number of months, and he said, he said, well, let's just try disectomy, and we'll try and relieve the sciatica. So that they did that, and that helped. And for about 2-3 weeks after that, I didn't have a lot of joint pain. But the other thing was they loaded me up with steroids, knowing that trauma could cause this disease to get worse. And so that's why I was feeling so good. So once that wore off, I didn't have any sciatica, but man, my joints still hurt. I mean, you can see this finger, see how it's bent. That's the type of damage it does. And so still in great pain, thought at one time I was going to go back to work. Didn't happen. As soon as you think you're getting better, it comes back strong, and you're just shaking your head. You don't know what the hell to do. And so my back doctor, my neurosurgeon, was noticing that I was telling him that certain parts of my body hurt worse than others. Like my right shoulder, elbow, hand, and everything hurt worse than the left side. Same thing, my knees were hurting really bad. And he said, we need to get some MRIs on this stuff. So he ordered MRIs not only on my shoulder, but my knees as well. So when the shoulder comes back, turns out that I have torn rotator cuff, torn labrum, torn bicep, a tear of a tendon in my wrist. My hands are a mess. They've just been disfigured a little bit because of the disease. And so now there's another surgery. And I kept telling the shoulder, the orthopedist about the shoulder. I said, I don't want to have surgery right now. I've been so isolated over the last year and a half that I've developed some type of anxiety and stress disorder because I've just been locked away in a room in extreme pain and really couldn't get moving around much. And then comes the MRI on the knees. I go back to my rheumatologist, and he sets me down and he says, Mike, he goes, has anybody ever gone over all your MRIs with you? And I said, they do, they have, but I said, the shoulder I know about. And I said, I'm not having surgery right now. I said, I just shut down when I hear these issues that I have and the problems I have. And he goes, well, let's go over these. And the first thing that comes out of his mouth is he says, I've never seen anybody who has the amount of damage that has been done to a body. I've never seen anybody with all these amounts of issues. And so we went through the shoulder and the hands, and then he goes, let's get to the knees. And he goes, both knees, torn cartilage. Your left knee, the one that I had reconstructed, 30 years ago, the ligament is torn completely through. And he goes, how are you walking? He goes, I don't get it. How are you walking? And I said, the only thing I can attribute it to is the fact that even though I'm in a lot of pain and it hurts like heck, is that I go to the gym every other day and work out. Because I know as an ex-athlete, keeping the joints strong is important. And so that's probably the only reason I'm walking upright without a walker right now.